All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages? Welcome back to another episode of the Macro Perspective with yet again another guest in our Cenegenics Guest Series. So, in terms of today, we have one of our other performance health coaches, Aaron Harris, and I believe I'm saying your last name right, but
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't have the most ethnic last name that
No.
or first name, but yeah, Aaron and I mean, I got to train both of you technically, in a sense. I hope I did an all right job with that first and foremost. But at the same time, it's really cool because I feel like as we've mentioned right before we hit record, like what do we have to bring to the table? What are we going to talk about on this episode today? And truth be told, I think everybody's individual personality is something that is very unique inside of our organization. So really showcasing that's like the name of the game. I think your sense of humor is hilarious, especially even in our fantasy football group, which I think obviously led to a little bit of a tumultuous situation last week. So maybe we should start with that since we're in the middle of football season right now. Aaron,
What's your lineup, Aaron? What's your lineup, man?
My lineup is garbage. And it wasn't even about the lineup. So I guess I should preface this by saying I don't even really watch NFL football. I did for a really long time, and then I just kind of got out of it. But I've only been in 2 fantasy leagues. This is my second fantasy league. And the first time I was in a fantasy league, it was the year that I drafted Sean Alexander, #1 overall, as my running back. And that was the year that he got hurt, and like nobody ever heard from him again. And so, like, from the very, like, first play of the first week, I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm never doing this again. And then Marcus comes in.
Aaron, Pete said this the best. He said this the best about our fantasy league. He's like, I'm like, yo, what's this whole fantasy thing about? He's like, Seamus, take $50 out of your wallet and burn it. That's what's up.
Essentially, because you're never going to see it again. And so you just have to make a removal, like a spiritual removal from your money, right? So Marcus is like testing the waters for this fantasy league, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, just because I want to be social. I'm new to the team, and I want to, interact with the boys, right? My team is nuked. Like the whole season is done. Like I know that I'm not alone in this. I know that a lot of people have had just like the worst luck with like hitting parlays and fantasy lineups. Mm-hmm. Like it's just been a wacky year for the NFL. So I'm like, all right, fire sale. Like anybody is available on my team. Like make me an offer, right? And then this is what happens. You give people an inch, they take a mile, and here we are. And then I'm getting reprimanded for just accepting any and all trades. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I probably deserve it because this is what I get for not paying attention to what's going on around me. But that's in a nutshell. I guess you can decipher how my personality is based off of that alone.
Exactly. Like if you literally would just take the 5 seconds, like one week you had an injured player that wasn't even playing. Like I don't even think you checked it on Sunday. You know what I mean? You're just like, I was like, if Aaron literally just like played people that were actually going to play, you would likely win a few of them. And that's part of the fun though. But it's also the part of the headache, right? And I mean, obviously that situation last week with like all the trades getting stuff and then all getting vetoed. Also, that's why we have the veto system this year versus last year where, hey, like, again, like if a trade really isn't on the up and up, we're going to hold people accountable and be like, yo, like we wish it was us, but we would also hope that people would veto us too. So,
but this is the thing. Like, when you have a guy, I'm the guy that I have no idea like who's good. Like I have no idea what's a fair trade. So to me, it was all gravy. I'm just like, yeah. And so this is why you need to have a little bit more discretion about who you allow in your fantasy league.
I'll be honest with you, Aaron. I was you last year. It was my first fantasy league with them. But we had a previous teammate, Josh. Josh was really like my sensei because he's like, yo, what are you doing, man? You could win this match against Marcos or Rudy or whatever if you just did this and this. And he'd give me like, no, trade this guy for that guy. And he's like, he'd save me too. He's like, bro, why did you save that? Why did you trade that person? And then he'll have to go back to the fantasy league and be like, yo, we gotta give Seamus a chance here. He doesn't know what he's doing. I did pretty well overall with a little bit of guidance, it was good.
Yep, and Seamus, Josh was at the epicenter of this earthquake as well this year. So, needless to say, Trader Josh will always be trading. Putting out the trades that shouldn't be there, and then also justifying like, hey, like it really was a fair trade. He sent me one today, like, and that's part of the fun of like. he's like take it before I changed my mind. I was like, I don't know, like you think this is how Josh operates every year of the 2 years we've done this in me and him. If your player has a down week, he comes at you with somebody that's been down maybe the whole season, saying, but his upside and his potential. You know that he's that guy. And I was like, dude, this year, no one's that guy. Next thing you know, you got Christian McCaffrey on IR for the entire season. So,
oh, shit. I mean, dude, I think it's Josh's personality, man. He's from New York, like they hedging things. They're out there on Wall Street just like hedging bets all the time. So,
my gosh. And it looked like he has to be like, again, he has to be the one that comes out on top of the deal, and he's like, the one who was like proposing to me, I'm like, I got to give you like my 2 dogs for someone who hasn't produced this year, and then a potential upside person. And he's like, well, it's definitely fair, like, and I'm like, dude, like that, like the go to show you like what this year really has been about is like, again, you're kind of taking risks on unknown rookies, and they're hoping that their potential's panned out. And I mean, Malik Neighbors and Justin Jefferson just so happened to be on the same team in our league. And we're like, all right, well, thank God for me this week I didn't have Malik playing against me in addition to Justin Jefferson, because I really would have been crushed. And my hopes and dreams of hopefully going to 3-2 this week have been shattered unless Rashid Shaheed can literally put up a 40-point nugget, and anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. So, but yeah, like like, again, just to put like Aaron's personality, because Shannon said, no, you're not in the group this year. And it's funny, like I thought that Josh Garcia had reached out to you, but he's like, I want to call it quits, but Brandon, Butterfingers, Ayuk, and Mike, I'll get there when I want to get there. Evans has forced my hand. And that basically sums up Aaron in a nutshell. He's just, you're comical, man. You even said at the beginning of the year in the group thread where you're like, I'm just here for like the comedy. I'm here to just liven things up a little bit.
I'll be honest with you. As soon as Aaron, like I remember like really put like something, I don't know if it was like serious, but just put out like a little thing in our thread, and then Aaron said something that was like such a good joke. I was like, oh, I like this guy already. He's already fitting in and he's already hitting hard. And I was like, I fucking love this right here.
I'll tell you guys something that like I learned very, very early on in my life is that laughter is the like most pure gift that you can give to someone. And like when I was a kid, my favorite thing in the world was watching adults laugh, like really laugh. Like my dad is someone who's very like stoic, and he doesn't really, I mean, he has a sense of humor, but he doesn't tell jokes. But I remember when he bought a VHS of like football bloopers. Like it was just guys getting hit with the head when the football and like tripping over one another. And he would watch this and laugh his ass. I forget if you guys can curse or not on here. I'm sorry, but like he would just laugh uncontrollably. And like it was like the coolest thing in the world to me, because I was like, what makes adults laugh? Like I don't know what they find funny. And then my mom, she would watch like Seinfeld and just laugh. And I'm just like, this is special. Like I gotta figure out like how to be funny. And then little did I know that it would help me later on in life. For people who may get annoyed by me or may find me to be somewhat obnoxious, you can ease the tension a little bit in any situation if you just give them a couple chuckles every once in a while. So sharpening the wit is pretty important for, I would think, longevity health.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point. I mean, laughter. Shit, I feel like I haven't laughed quite as hard as a lot of your comments in the group, whether it is actually in like our broader group or the fantasy group. And it is again not like a class clown kind of joking. Like some of your stuff is like, I feel like it's almost it's not brash. What's the word? It's like The Office humor sometimes. It's like very like, like, dude, is that intended to be funny or not?
Like, Aaron has like deep social cuts, because I asked him a question once, or he put a post out there and I like responded, and I was like, dude, this would be hilarious. And he knew exactly what I was thinking before I had to explain it, and I was like, dang, Aaron knows. He's in the know, bro.
Oh, was that oh, what were we talking about? We were
Captain
talking about
Planet, dude.
Captain Planet. That's right. Yes, yes. We were talking about the Don Cheadle Captain Planet skit from Funny or Die that came out like 10 years ago. That like nobody knows, but like I don't like. I was proposing like what I should dress up as for Halloween, and one of them was a Planeteer, and Seamus was like, "If you do this, you know what you got to do, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know the Don Cheadle thing." And like Seamus lost his mind. Like I could feel the head exploding all the way from Beverly Hills. And I was like,
I was
okay,
dying, bro.
yeah. But like honestly, like to sort of like turn this into like a Cenegenics conversation, do you guys find that a good sense of humor, like the people that you know that are the healthiest at their oldest, are like people that know how to have a good time and people that know how to laugh and make jokes and things like that, or are they just like most uptight, serious people that you know, right?
I'll be honest with you. I was actually thinking about this today, not about laughter, but about just like another emotion. Is like the people that have the best longevity are people that like can just like let it go, or like are able to kind of be like, forgive, not forget, but forgive, and also just be able to understand like life has its own agenda, and you just have to kind of like submit to this and be like, dude, it's cool. And I don't have control over that. And I think laughter is part of that too, being able to laugh that off and laugh at yourself. I know I have. Marcos knows I've laughed at myself tremendously, just because I've just made so many freaking mistakes, and it's just like so many points and learning lessons, and it's just you kind of realize like if you just take it all too seriously, I think you'll just be wrapped up and bound in. You could in longevity call it like stress, just being able to let go of that, I think it's probably gonna be super key for longevity.
Yeah, I mean, dude, now that I think about it, I don't really know if I really have a lot of patient interaction at times where they are like laughing in the moment. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they're in there for like business. And I try to like make light of things, and sometimes it'll land the wrong way. It happened to me like not too long ago. And I was like, I was intending this to like calm you, but you took it and flipped it the other direction. And I was like, oh no. And it was like a patient and her husband, and the husband was like, that's not what he meant. Like he was trying to like, again, like lighten the mood. And then other people can, interpret it another way. And I feel like comedy is like one of the things I try to, I'm like very like, could be very dry in a consult at times. And so like, I don't know, like I feel like business mode me versus like understanding my personality over time, building rapport with people are two very different things. And at times too, I think, I mean, if we're being honest, like, it's like, when people are coming in, they're paying this high premium. I do wish people would laugh more because we're trying to have a good time, and it's a long day, like for anybody to like, from our doctor visit standpoint. So, yeah, I mean, I think, not to call
I got
Seamus
some
out,
jokes.
but I think
Yeah, go
Seamus
ahead,
has said some stuff sometimes, and jokingly, and I mean, we never know who we're privileged to have the company with, if that makes sense, So it's like everything almost has to be at this level of serious. Like we have to be super serious, so we can't let our personalities sometimes, because we're obviously talking or giving off the brand, right, versus ourselves. So I don't know.
It's been no, Marcus, you're right. Like it's been, especially now that Beverly Hills is like shifting this like whole thing. I've been very much more punctuated with my conversations. In this conversation, I'm having my it's me. It's all me. But in certain conversations, yeah, obviously representing the brand. I do have some jokes that are like safe for work. Like we use the Wavi brain performance scan, and I have 3 jokes. I'm like, you're going into the Matrix. It just depends on the person's person. You're going into the Matrix, or you're Elon Musk's Neuralink, or for my comic book nerds out there, I'm like, we're gonna be Professor X and Cerebro. I give all 3, and I see which one they laugh at, and then some people are like, oh yeah, that's cool, yeah, and I'm like, give me something.
Yeah. There's definitely like a learning curve when talking to people about very personal and intimate details about their life and their health, and trying to make sure that they're in a comfortable space where they can share details with you that they don't put on the intake forms or anything like that. Like you know, I obviously like in certain cases, like you're not going to want to make light of anything, or you're not going to want to, but like in other cases, you know, making small talk about the weather just kind of feels phony and disingenuous too. So there's like, there's like a feeling out period. Usually that happens at the top, but I know what I'm doing, like PHAs or, you know, just doing long consults. Somewhere in between, like in the middle of the conversation, is when people really start to open up, and they understand that, you know, I'm not here to like judge them or like yell at them or anything like that, especially, you know, given the reputation that performance health coaches can have in this space. You know, being a little softer or being a little bit more personable helps them feel a little bit more at home or a little more comfortable. And it just helps building that relationship further on, so that, you know, the check-ins later on down the line, like they can be a little bit more free, and, you know, speak a little bit freer, and people can be more comfortable that way. So, but yeah, I hear you. Like, you know, sometimes you just can't say all the things that come to your mind, even though they may be hilarious to you. Someone might take it the wrong way.
100%.
Yeah. And we again, like, how do you blend that? And again, they get a unique perspective, because again, each coach has a slightly different demeanor just naturally, right? Like, so they can kind of sense that's part of your personality. And I'm like, could be very analytical numbers guy. I'm like in the zone with that at times. And also very dry with humor. So again, like, I don't know, sometimes I might say something and like laugh at it myself, and they're like, what's funny? I was like, nothing, you know, like again, like if you said the same spiel 1,000 times, you're gonna laugh at something you said incorrectly a little bit, even though they don't even know it's wrong. And then I would have to agree though. I would when you mentioned like, is that really like a part of longevity? Like, people that live the longest probably have a good amount of different things like on that kind of social element / like the in their social life there is a lot of laughter, right? And I think it's like, that's not really written on our forms, you know what I mean? Like, what makes you laugh, right? Or what is it that, and maybe this is where in the future we do have other partnerships where it does kind of look at like kind of psychoanalyzing people a bit more. But Lord knows our intake form would be even longer, which people would be less inclined to even fill out at that point. And but I think that's part of like the human experience. Like, you know, with all, when was that conversation we talked about? Like, will AI replace our jobs? And it's like,
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I don't know if AI can really like, you know, sympathize, empathize, have that, you know, casual conversation, just get to know you, get to do things right at a level that again allows you to feel like you're, you know, connecting with a human. But what it does allow you to do is like, hey, everything that I've talked about with you today can like literally be delivered to you in like a very expedited fashion with like the exact link and this, that, and the other. And like almost to the point where it feels scary. Like, how the hell, like, does this person just have this templated and say the same thing every time? And it's like, no, like we literally have this authentic connection, you know, in that moment where I'm talking to you. And recently I'm just writing a few little bullet notes just to be like, okay, we touched on this, got to send this. And what I actually then go do is like talk to AI, you know, literally, and say like, I need to write a summary with these details and this, that, and the other. I need to link to this, to that, and I can get it out to that person so that I can get back to having the conversation with them. You know, did you actually go get X product? Have you tried that walking desk treadmill? Have you tried this, that, and the other? Because the sooner they get it, the more they feel like, wow, this person's like really listening and wanting to take care of my health. So, you know, these new tools are really interesting.
Dude, I mean, and I gotta say, like, you know, earlier on when you were making your introduction, you were asking like, did I do a good job of training you? When you came down, I was blown. You are like one of the best listeners I think I've ever witnessed doing like having a conversation with somebody, because like the way that you would retain and recall information, and maybe it was because like I was new and I was nervous and I was like trying to like download so much information at once, but like the way that you would interact with patients and like go through the whole spiel, go through the whole PHA, and then at the end of it all, like you would sit down and like dictate your soak notes and like still be able, didn't write a single thing down. You were like Jay-Z. You were like, just let me just get in the booth and I'll recite it off the dome. And I was just like, how did he do all that? Like, how did he get all that information out? But
Yeah.
like, no, I just wanted to give you your flowers because like you're like everybody that came through, like Jason, Pete, you, Nick, like everybody that came through was phenomenal. But like, I just wanted to make sure that I give you your props because like you really set the tone on
Yeah.
what it was going to be, and I really appreciated you for doing that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that because, and I'm sure I even miss things, and everybody has their own way. And I was trying to like really articulate that, like you have to build it into your own thing. Because of course, the first person that I watched do it was Rudy, and like he is leaps and bounds above other people at times. Even to this day, it's like I'll go to him, I'll say something, I was like, kind of want to say it like this, and then he like thinks about it, sits on it, and then puts it into like his speak, and it's like, again, it's like it adds another element of elevation, right? And that's like a whole team dynamic, and you know how I look at things and how Nick and Jason and everybody looks at things a little bit differently, right? And yeah, I I do try to not write as much down because I think it makes people think like, okay, why is this like again like for me if someone's writing stuff down, I feel like a sense of pressure. So I've tried not to do that in more recent years, but now I've kind of gone back to it because I kind of have like my iPad with me at all times. So just kind of writing a few things down or showing them a couple things as we're talking about it. Like, hey, here's a sleep 8 mattress. I know you mentioned your sleep, and you know, like kind of like getting it like worked in and trying to figure out how to like again kind of modernize the experience a bit more. But at the same time too, like I was beating my head like as much as I might remember at times, I was beating my head against the wall today. I was like, dude, I had this conversation with this lady in Park City. What the hell was it? It was like last week on Wednesday. And I'm like sitting there. I was like, okay, like, what is it? What is it? And then it like finally dawned on me. It's like, oh yeah, we talked about actually like tracking her food, which is like, again, so left field at times for like anybody that we're normally like working with it. Like that's what they really want to do, especially when this is an older lady actually like was like, I'm actually really interested in kind of getting to understand that. Can you send me some info on it? And that's literally like all I do on the side for like my side stuff, right? So it was like, I'm like, oh, how did I forget that? That's like literally like the bread and butter stuff. So for every again, like trying to recall stuff over the course of a few days, terrible idea. I got to do it like right in that day. And that's where I've like really tried to go back and be like, hey, Chat GPT, like I want to start composing these things. I need like I built the framework so it does it the same way every time. Cool. Now I go in and put my own personal spin on it because it writes like a robot, and I like to like kind of throw some anecdote and some other stuff in there. So, you know, I again like it's really again like it's a unique thing. It's difficult. I think it's the hardest thing to do is actually to train people because there's just so many like little tips and tricks that like how do I like make sure that this is getting understood? And I mean, for future reference, like, Aaron, if I forgot something, like let me know because I could try to hopefully help you remember what XYZ thing is.
I feel like Marco said what you're saying is like you need like an offhand tool that like you can literally say it to it right away, like in transition. It's not the software yet, but it's like it's a tool within that, right? But then you need like a way to titrate programs. And like that digital health space is like, you know, the longevity of the AI, all these things that are like, okay, look, like we talked about these 5 things for fitness, these 5 things for nutrition, these 5 things for sleep, for example, stress management. Well, you're not going to do 15 things at once. You need to titrate them like a phase, like a periodization, right? Of like, okay, maybe this week it's just taking photos of your meals because you don't like to track macros, but you can take photos and you like to be accountable. So, okay, cool. That system is like, it's hard because it's individualized to every single person, right? Like Precision Nutrition did a great job of like creating these habits. But I remember when that curriculum first came out, those habits were like, oh, you needed to do it in sequential order. And then they had to like go back on that and say, oh, you know what, you could do it at any time that you felt was good. Because everyone's so individual, right? Everyone has to have their specific habit given to them at the specific time. So when people tell me, they're like, well, what are you going to coach me on? I'm like, I honestly don't know. I don't know.
Do you guys have certain patients that you just feel useless with? That they do just such a great job. They're so consistent and dedicated that when they come in, they're just like, yeah, all right, just keep going.
Yeah. I have one patient that I feel bad for. Like, not bad. He's just constantly, he's on the ball. He's killed it. He's been training his whole life. He's trained with like, I don't know if he's trained with Arnold, but maybe in his groups around there. And he's like, dude, like the programs you give me are great. And like he's shredded, he's ripped. I just like having programs easy. So I've already built out like multiple programs that I just run through in circles. He's like, no, I love these. I'm like, keep doing it. I'm like, feel like I'm challenging you, but also at the same time I'm not, because he's already such like he's on it, and I'm like, you've already seen the tricks. You've already seen all the cool things. I add my nuance to it. I add my things to it. He likes it. He appreciates it. But I know that like even without me, I'm like he's gonna still be like a a stallion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, like you said, there's definitely patients where, especially ones that have been tenured for a bit longer, you kind of feel, again, maybe a little less important, but at the same time, like the dynamic of like being the person that, again, is excited. Like, again, like I've really put it upon myself, and that like this is just my standard. Like, I got to remember this person based on like kind of one unique identifier, which again has really helped me, especially like remembering 150 plus people, in a practice, because like, again, I don't want to have to go refer to the particulars of a soap note, when it comes to like trying to actually like give a crap about people, and I think a lot of our coaches kind of feel the same way. Like, we're putting elements that can like refresh our memory about like maybe if there was like a recent loss in their family or a big event or surgery or this, that, and the other. But like, that unique identifier, like I got, X person who is like a master of his craft of like, most of them have like weird odds and ends on how they made their living, right? So one of them was like the fire extinguisher king. He's like, yeah, like I'm basically like in every firehouse in the U.S. because of my fire extinguisher. It's like, what an idea for a business, you know what I mean? But like, it's like you're pretty much foolproof there, So I remember him, and then also that person has like ties to cryptocurrency and things that he talks about and books he recommended. So I talked to him about the books he suggested me reading, and a lot of that is, again, like when the patient has that and can give you some personality, like I genuinely just like figuring out what people have done to like make it, because then I feel like, man, like who would have, like, again, like have you run into that yet, Aaron, where you're just like, man, who would have thought that like that would be the thing that could make someone $1 million plus?
Dude, not even so much like from business endeavors, because I think a lot of people down here like cut their teeth in oil and gas or whatever, but like the hobbies that people do is like kind of amazing. Like we got one guy who does astrophotography, so every time he comes in, he's like, here, check out this new galaxy I saw. And I was like, okay. And then like he shows this photo of the like something you would see out of a book in like like it would be the cover of like your social studies book in 8th grade, or like something that you would see at NASA. And I'm like, how did you do that? And then he shows me his setup, and it's like thousands of dollars worth of equipment. He's like, it's so heavy. And I'm like, do you hike with it? Like, do you ruck with your telescope equipment? He's like, no. I just take it out there. And he's explaining to me the whole process of taking photos and like editing it, and then like the community of surrounding it. I'm like, this is incredible. I was like, can you come back every week? Because it's like I just get so jazzed up hearing people talk about what they're passionate about, like there's something infectious about, like I could listen to plumbers talking about plumbing for an hour, like it wouldn't matter, because it's just like two guys or two girls or whoever, two people talking about a thing that they have expertise at. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why so many podcasts pop up of just experts talking about their field, and it just blows up. Even if you have no frame of reference, if you have no idea what they're talking about, like it's just fun to listen to people talk about things that they care about. So I love like when patients come in and like we'll spend a good 15-20 minutes not even talking about their labs or their test results or anything like that. I'm just like, so it's like, what do you do for fun? Like,
yeah.
And then people just tell me about their indoor soccer league, and then like how they're getting washed by a 16-year-old from Honduras that's got like the most amazing footwork ever, and like breaking and you're just like, yeah, no, I get it. Like we're gonna try to get you in shape so you can take that kid's lunch. Like this is our new goal now. Like we're just gonna know. So I love that. I love hearing all that kind of stuff.
Well, talking about stories, Aaron. Talking about stories, man. Tell us yours. How did you get into this world of like longevity, health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, performance? How did that come about?
Well, I mean, like the real story, or like the kind of like the funny semi-actual story of how this happened. The semi-actual funny story is I met a kid when I was like I don't know, like 5 or 6 years old. We met in preschool, and I was like, "Hey, you want to be friends?" And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." And like we became like each other's first friend. And then a couple of years passed by. That kid moved away, and then he moved back to the hometown in high school. And I was like, "Whoa, it's funny seeing you again." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Still want to be friends?" And I'm like, "Yeah, definitely, still want to be friends." And then we remained friends after graduating high school. And then like another like 20 years later, he's like, "Hey, you want to work with the company that I work with?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. It sounds like a good idea." And that's how it got here. So, so that's the story. But like the more detailed story that I'm sure people will be just absolutely compelled by is like I guess I could say like I'm kind of like a slacker's best case scenario for life, because I have a and this has also probably gotten me like, this is why I like have yet to find myself a life partner, because like I have a terrible lack of ambition, and when you put that on a dating profile, you don't really get a lot of matches. So I've never really cared about making a ton of money or having a big house or anything like that. So I've never really I never had a job where I made a ton of money, right? So that's part of the reason why I got into personal training. And it's not because I was like, ooh, like I could make a ton of money like running a gym or anything. Like no, I was just in the gym a lot because I was bartending. I'm straight edge, by the way, so I don't even drink. So imagine that. It's like a pilot that's scared of heights. Like it's just doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I make a mean margarita. Like I'll make a margarita that'll knock you.
But how do you know? Have you tasted the goods to know that it's mean? Or
The reviews are real.
Listen, man, I see how people react. All right.
okay,
I see what happens at the end of the night when the tequila is flowing through their veins. I'm like, that person's happy. That person's leaving on a high note, and that's partially due to me. So I'm just gonna say, like, margarita that I made. There's probably several children born within the last 20 years because of my margaritas. Yeah. But so I was bartending and I was working out in the daytime because I didn't have anything else to do. And a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, you ever thought about becoming a trainer? You're in the gym so often, you might as well get paid for it." And I was like, "No, actually, I've never thought about it because I was a terrible student and I know you have to get certified. And I don't need another reason for somebody to tell me that I'm dumb or, incompetent." But regardless, I went and got I talked to the ACE, the American Council of Exercise. I was like, "Hey, send me some stuff." And they were like, "Okay, we're going to send you this stuff." And they gave me 9 months to prepare for the test. And I was like, "Look, if I can't pass a test after 9 months of studying for it, then like I should just huck myself out of a moving car, because like how much more opportunity do you need?" I took the test. I passed the test. I got certified. I started putzing around the city. I worked at these small hardcore gyms. I worked at the big box gyms. I worked at boutique fitness studios. I worked all over the city. And during that process, I learned a lot about how I didn't want to operate a gym, and I also learned a lot of like how to talk to people. But the thing that I learned the most was how rewarding it felt helping somebody achieve their goals. And I was like, that's what I want. Like I remember my first client, like he came in and during the first assessment, like we took a measurement on the scale, and then like 3 months later we took another measurement, and he saw how much the number had dropped, and like he looked like he had discovered chocolate for the very first time. Like it was an amazing feeling, and I was like, that's a high. I was like, put that in my veins. So that's what I've been doing. So then when I started working for myself, like I was just a mobile trainer. I was going to people's homes and parks and just independently training. That's when Rudy hit me up and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Anything for you, brother." So that's the short story. There was a lot more ups and downs, tremendous downs, like some of the best downs you've ever seen, and some moderately okay ups. But I survived and I made it, and now I'm here talking with you guys. And this has been so far. 2024 is shaping up to be the best year of my life. Like no exaggeration.
I love
That's
it.
awesome.
I love it.
It's crazy because I feel kind of the same way as you in a sense, like that putzing around, still not knowing what to do with life in a sense. In addition to like, I can be incredibly lazy and non-ambitious, but also the most ambitious person. And I don't know, most of my like earlier years, because I think I like immersed myself and was so hard on myself personally, it was just like intrinsic. Literally, then once I finally got my first A- in a lab class, I was like, it's all done, it's over, fire sale, here I come.
This fool said, yo, valedictorian, yo, Valley F out, bro.
Yes, pretty much, man. I finally was like, it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to not be perfect kind of moment.
Yeah.
And it's literally even how I go about like talking to people now when it comes to like nutrition. And I gave a seminar a weekend ago, and even yesterday when I was doing another one to like get prepared for this challenge. I'm like, look, guys, what we need to understand is that while we might be the sum of our daily actions, at the end of the day, when you want to see results in nutrition, it's how your weeks shape up, right? And a bad day does not define you, right? You're gonna have up and downs all with your weight during the week, with your motivation to actually do the things during the week. It's okay, right? And I was like, let me show you what it looks like to just like put your head in it and like want to get to this goal, right? And I think PN does a really good job of explaining this. People could be 10 to 49% compliant in their nutrition program for a year and still lose inches off their waist and have a good amount of weight loss. And like, well, I was like, but how does that even work? You know what I mean? Like, how is that going to sustain progress? Well, I mean, it's a compounding effect. It's just like a conversation I had today with somebody. I was like, he's like, yeah, I have a standing desk. I was like, oh, you have a standing desk? Awesome. Do you ever like walk? I don't really like treadmills. And he's like, I don't want to be the bobblehead. I was like, well, you can't possibly be on that many Zoom meetings. He's like, I was on Zoom meetings for 10 and a half hours yesterday, Marcos. I was like, yo, wild. He's like, but I'm willing to get like a little under the desk, like bike thing. And I was like, all right. Haven't seen it work for anybody quite yet. You could be my case study, right? So as soon as you find that opening, because you suggested something, it was like, oh, wow, this could be something there too. And again, I was like thinking about, I was like, man, if this dude puts 15 minutes of work in per day over the next year, how many minutes is that, 5 days a week or whatever it is, right? Is that enough to help him overcome this current plateau? Who knows? Who cares? Maybe like it leads him into finding more activity later. And again, it's like the lazy man's approach. Like, I don't think any of us here want to do more work than we need to at any given time. We want to find where that like right balance point is. So I kind of feel you too, Aaron, where you're like, at times like, well, granted, like I had kids at a younger age, so like I have to be more motivated. But there are like literally today I woke up, same time alarm went off. I was like, I really should go for my walk. I'm not going for that walk today. I'm not in it. I don't feel it. I was like, I don't even want to go to work today. I literally texted my service coordinator, Tiffany. I was like, do you actually need me today to do something? Are we actually going to like get after this like project of our move? Like, should I start today? And she's like, if we start first thing in the morning, you should definitely come in. If not, then you should just not come. And I was like, fuck, she's giving me the out. She's literally giving me the out. And I was like, nah, I'm sure. I was like, I know. And I was like, all right, I'll drop the kids off. I'll see you at 9:30. And it ended up being a super, productive day. But again, we all go through those moments of motivation, highs and lows, like you said, circling back. And the joke about like finding good people in your life, like obviously he's like, hey, you want a job? Like became good friends at a young age. Like it's a cool, I mean, the joking, funny story is actually a really cool story because, the relationships you build with a lot of people, I think in my eyes, like they matter far more. What do they say about wealth, right?
I don't know.
The little thing.
Your network is your wealth.
Net worth. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. That's wealth.
But also, dude, like we're in the space of longevity, right? Jason and I had this conversation in an elevator. It was that profound, and like it made a memory for me. He's like, dude, guys, we're doing, all these scans. We're finding the most complicated ways to create performance and optimization and stuff like that. And some of this is very much like important stuff, like Prenuvo scans, Clearly scans, and things that are detecting cancer and more crazy stuff. But for the general person, if they just change one or two things, right? And he basically said, like for all this stuff, all this science stuff, this VO2 max, this DEXA scan, muscle mass, all this, against having a great social life and that laughter component, Aaron, like you're probably going to live longer. I mean, that's what they say in Sardinia, right? In Italy, like the fact that they have people literally checking in on you when you're older. You have 4 generations of people having laughter, love in their household, having dinners together night to night. Like, that's a far better indicator than probably all this stuff put together in my eyes for longevity, just because, like, it really is the people. It really is at the end of the day. And these relationships, human beings are not, we're not we're not creatures of being alone. We have to be with others, and that's where longevity comes in.
No, 100%. And, I did make light of it, but it is something that I'm like incredibly proud of because like to go from being like Rudy was my first friend. And like, I don't know if I was his first friend, but he was my first friend. And to go from knowing somebody from preschool to like now we're in our 40s. Like, and
Which
like,
still blows my mind, by the way, about you, Aaron. When you put that happy birthday thing, I was like, 4-0, bro. What?
yeah, bro. I was born in 1984, man. But like, to know somebody for that long and like to like see their Facebook account or to like see like any possibility where they're like this person might be insane, like I don't know if I should associate with them anymore, to go through all of that for he and I to still be able to like not only stay friends but like now we're like co-workers, like I work for him, like that's pretty impressive. Like I gotta say, like I'm pretty impressed with myself because like there's not a lot of people that I grew up with that I still talk to. There's not a lot of people that like even like 10 years ago I still talk to. I was talking about this the other day. Like I was on a date and I was telling this girl, I was like, I've been in like a handful of weddings, like 5 or 6 weddings. In the wedding, like standing up there next to the groom, I don't talk to any of those guys anymore, like at all.
Wow.
And it's like not like on some, well, sometimes it's on some beef stuff, but like it's never really on like, oh, I don't like you anymore, I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. It's just people phase out of your life. Yeah, you just lose that connection, like whatever that connective tissue was. And sometimes it's because of life elements, and sometimes it's just because, I don't know. But I do think that having that community and that social and that family and that love, that love that binds, that people have been writing books and music about, and poetry for hundreds of years, like there is something absolutely to that for a long and healthy life. I think if you don't have it, I mean, you see examples of it all the time, like people dying alone, and like you're just like these people lived, not in the best of conditions, or like they were grumpy, or like just like, and if they just had somebody in their life, or maybe they did and they lost them, and then like the shift happens.
That's a true thing, man. So like I had a psychology class once, and I was a hopeless romantic, fell in love for the first time. Going through some hard times, had to ask my professor. Like I didn't do Google, I didn't do ChatGPT. I asked the source, person, and I was like, "Hey, is there really a concept of like love sick?" And he's like, "Yeah, there really is a concept of love sickness, and the best example of that is when a partner passes away at an old age. Let's just say they're well into their end years, and he goes, if one passes away, they've seen that people will pass within the next 3-6 months, just because that's how powerful their love was. The other partner just doesn't want to be part of this anymore, and will just follow along with their partner, even if all things are relatively healthy, all things standing are good." And I was like, dang, it really comes to show if there's nothing to live for, then there is nothing to live for.
Yeah. And like when because like I have like a bunch of things that I love in my life, like some things that are that matter, and like some things that don't, but like I always, and this is gonna sound so stupid, like this is like some people are gonna listen to this and think like this guy's a dork, but like there are things that I'm looking forward to that I'm like, I just gotta stay alive for it. Like I just gotta stay alive. Like Superman comes out next summer, like the new Superman movie, I'm like, I gotta stay alive for it. I gotta do it. Like I gotta do whatever I can to make sure that I am there no matter what to watch Superman make his return to the big screen. Like, and that sounds dumb, but like to me that's enough. Like I don't need much else. But like I think it's important, and I try to reiterate this to like patients all the time. I'm like, why are you here? Like what are you doing here? Like are you here because you read a book, you heard a podcast? Are you here because you want to play with your kids and not be tired? Like, what's your why? And like getting to the why is kind of like the whole mantra of Cenegenics, right? Like because we work in preventative care. Like we want to make sure that we get to it before the problem comes up.
Well, that's the important thing too. I think Marcos and I went deep into this. Like with our work, when people say like, "Oh, I just want to be healthy," I'm like, that's just not enough. Like
Yeah.
it really, like it isn't, because you're not in the space of like, if you're not terminally ill, that's not where you need to be. Healthy is this other side of the spectrum where it's like, this is death, this is like getting out of it, and terminally ill, and then this is neutral, which is like, yeah, I want to be healthy, neutral. And there's like, well, the optimization, you do need to have like a true north. You need to have something where you go, what am I working for? Because to show up at a high level, to sharpen the knife every single day, that razor's edge takes work. And like Marco said, like, I had a half marathon yesterday, and I woke up and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I trained 16 weeks hard, and every single day was perfect until the last minute. And then the last minute, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you do have to have like a why. And like in that run, I had to find it, and I had to find the person that was telling me no, and tell them no, like, I got to do this because I'm saying I want to do this. And it's a hard bargain, because the only thing you're fighting is really yourself. It's just this.
Yeah, I think when it's hard to explain that to someone who's starting their journey and hasn't had multiple iterations of like the performance outcome, right? Same thing with me, dude. Like, obviously our competition this weekend, I signed up for it so I would get more invested in like going after something, not for the outcome of the event. Of course I want to go in there and win, but also too, like, I can't predict what's going to happen on game day unless it is solely me. As soon as you have a team element and you're doing a team sport, it's definitely a little bit different. And, my wife asked me this question. She's like, are you disappointed with like our performance this weekend? And I was like, disappointment's not the right word. Like, I'm over here like in my head about like our strategy. I like the strategy behind the day more than I actually like the day itself. I messed up on an event, cost us a little bit. She had a little bit of an injury, cost us a little bit. In my head, I was like, isn't it crazy to think, babe, if you would have just sat there for the minute or two and just let yourself recover, probably would have had around the same score for that workout that you were kind of responsible for, that I took over for. And if I would have just stayed on the rower, we would have been in the last event. Like, in the moment, like, your mind is going a million miles an hour, and it's just so hard to like kind of not do that. So like, and every time in the competition setting, it's like the jitters, that like that thing you said, like, dude, it's 1 minute before, I don't want to be here. Dude, every competition, I feel it's like that these days. And I think it's partly performance anxiety. I'm not going to perform as well as I prepared. If you've done all the work, you're going to perform as best as you can, and that's all that should matter, And like you just said, like getting ready, like keeping healthy enough to go see the movie that you want to see next year, right? That's a good reason to live in my eyes. Like, if there's things that keep you that invested, like, dude, honestly, like, I'm looking forward to the next Disney Pixar movie. I don't even know what it is, but dude, like, I know there's exactly the Nuggets and Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2 was, yeah. I cried 7 times.
It's so good. Like, I don't know how they do it every single time.
It's because it's somebody that's like our age, right? That like completely understands, like, like, how do I anthropomorphize almost, right? Like these different things, right? And then like make it so that like you're like, oh my God, whoever thought of that like is on another level. They may literally have been like on another level, to get to those things. But like, shit, dude, like, they literally put an emotion that like technically no one really kind of ever heard of, and like kind of stole the show and made you laugh. And then also too, like, how nostalgia, they're just like, no, you're too young for this. And then like, of course you're in that moment being nostalgic. It was just, and that's what I look forward to things like that too. I look forward to like being able to go do that with my son. Like those moments, like the why, like you said, the question of the why is like what brings people in. But then we also then have to ask that next question, how? How are you getting to next year to be able to do that? How am I getting to go perform on that stage? How is Seamus getting ready for his next High Roxy? How would you pronounce that? High Roxy's?
I have no clue. I like a little humor. Like, I made this post once. I was like, High Rocks or little pebbles, and I was like, I don't know, but it really, like, I feel like what was funny was, as soon as the marathon was done, or half marathon was done, the high was so high, bro. Like, this whole weekend was absolutely atrociousness, but like the high was so high that it just kind of like washed it over. And Desiree and I go, sign up. Oh, there's a free ticket. And like we're like, yo, God, the universe, everyone wanted us to like sign up for these tickets because the tickets are sold out, and you've had to keep refreshing the page or be on a wait list. And we got in. It's 8 weeks out. We're already set for another High Rocks in Vegas, but I already had my map. I already had the map down, and it's crazy because the how. It's really weird how the how presents itself. If the why is strong enough, this is more like deeper laws of the universe stuff that like is beyond me. But if I feel like if that why is strong enough and the vision is clear enough, the path gets laid out, but the path is also like adaptable. It can kind of meander as it needs because I do have a game plan, I do have a template, but I'm also giving some of the reins, Marcos, to like other people, and I've delegated. Like I'm getting nutrition coached. I'm getting big, as Marcos says. Stop bitching out. I'm getting bigger, and I'm taking some advice. I'm becoming coached up myself because it's hard for me to get out of my own head, and I'm also taking training advice from like professionals in the high rock space, and it just kind of comes to show like I think sometimes the how needs to be left to professionals like Aaron, us, like the performance health coaches with the physician team at Cenegenics, where it's like, look, I know your health is important to you, but you got to let us do the work. You got to let us do the best plan because I see these things about you, and I'm going to give you 1, 2, and 3, and again, titrate that program and periodize it for you because in the next 90 days, you're just kind of like being vacuum fed all this stuff. And then in 90 days, you're like, okay, kind of figured out a little bit. Seamus, what's the next step? And I think the how is it's a day in, day out kind of thing. But like what Marco says, it's kind of like week to week. I think week to week is probably time frame wise something you can understand.
You guys ready for this? Because we're about to circle back around. This is what we call a callback in the industry.
A callback.
It all comes back to being able to roll with the punches, right? Like you said earlier, like this is what helps maintain the longevity because you're going to stumble, you're going to fall. When you're doing your how, you're going to figure out how, and you're going to be like, how am I supposed to do this? How am I going to get this done? And you're going to mess it up, and you're going to want to try again. And then you're going to get mad, and then you're going to call, and then you're going to email, and you're going to be like, this isn't working anymore. And it's like, okay, let's try something else. And that's part of the process too, right? Like part of the process is figuring out like what your capabilities are mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. And then relying on other people, having trust in other people to get you around whatever your capabilities are. So like, yeah, like we can give you a plan, but we're not saying that plan is concrete. We're not saying that this is the be all end all way. So, I mean, try it out, see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll make some adjustments. But like, you have to be able to say, like, you have to be able to admit to yourself, like, this isn't it. Like, this isn't the final form. This isn't the last time I'm going to be trying something. You know, you have to be adaptable. You have to be coachable, right?
Yeah, you cannot be dogmatic on one exact thing because evidence and research is constantly kind of changing. I think we understand a good deal of things, but I don't know, maybe we unlock the human genome to another level with some other miracle thing, you know, that like gives us a whole new way of breaking down energy. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like something is bound to happen. And it's very interesting. Like you said, like, I mean, rolling with the punches, adaptability with the plan, being coachable. It's funny because I feel like sometimes the least coachable people are the ones that were, again, they were so coachable at one point in their life, so they got away from it for a while. You know, people are like, oh, you know, you asked that question, and if you haven't done this with some of the patients, if you know that they like are a former athlete, and you're like, you know, when was the last time you really like sat back and thought about like when you were being coached? Why were you listening to this person? You know, like what made you want to go give it your all for that individual? You know, the team or the coach, otherwise, right? Like, and you know, like, oh, I would just show up and I would just do what they said, and it's like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, show up and just do what I'm saying in the beginning, and then give me feedback so that we can then move into the next phase, like, and like, you know, it's like, hey, like, here's a list of all the foods that are like we know to be like, you know, and on the up and up, right? But if you find another one, feel free to question me or try to work it in. And again, like you want to maybe use another tool, you know, cool. Like again, like you just said, you you can't, it's never concrete. The foods I'm eating right this second, as of today, they were a little more flexible. Not gonna lie. This morning I woke up, I was like, dude, if I don't eat something right now, I'm probably not gonna eat until I don't even know when, because I'm not taking lunch with me. So like I was like, last 10 minutes before I'm taking the kids to school, I made 4 slices of French toast. Maybe it was a little bit much. How dare I?
Dare you?
Anabolic French toast. But muscle building French toast. And some people would say, well, aren't the carbs bad? I was like, well, the calories have to come from somewhere. And if I eat a lot of fat personally, my tummy doesn't feel as good. So I don't eat as much. So I do 2 eggs, 5 egg whites, and 4 slices of toast, and a little bit of maple syrup. I got ballsy. I even had some raspberries with it today. Goodness gracious!
Whoa.
You're gonna love this. The next thing, Chick-fil-A for lunch. Chick-fil-A sandwich, grilled chicken.
Not
grilled
sponsored,
chicken sandwich.
Right? Not sponsored by Chick-fil-A.
This
podcast.
I mean, nah.
But they should be.
I mean, they should. I mean, it's the Lord's chicken. You know what I mean? They're off on Sunday.
Here's what's gonna happen. If they don't, I'm gonna go in their parking lot and I'm gonna sell rest day chicken.
Rest day
chicken. Day old Chick-fil-A.
But in their parking lot.
But I think that was even part of my spiel yesterday with people. I'm like, what macros provide is the flexibility to have what I just described, those 2 things, right? And then I had a protein shake and a protein bar. Like I had other things that were like basically removing carbs from it, effectively, so that I could work in a little bit more of what I wanted. And I know that based on the macro adherence, this will work. This will keep me in a svelte body in check, right?
Yeah.
For other people, you give them an inch of like some bread, and like my mom, and she's like, yo, like it turned into a carbohydrate fiesta today. Absolutely demolished everything in sight that was carb related. So again, know yourself and know what the day provides, and flexibility, rolling with the punches. It also comes with education, right? Like our jobs as coaches is to, I view it as my mission to educate people where they're ready and what they're ready for. And again, personally, I love the flexibility, but some people just give me the rigidity of like a paleo diet and just tell me I need to go to my pantry and throw all this stuff away, Marcos. Just tell me I'm being soft. Some patients have literally told me to say that to them. I'm like, it's not really my personality type, but I'll have my doctor tell you that, because he will tell you, go throw that stuff away. So I'll literally walk into his office like, hey, you need to come down, lay the hammer down with this person. They're going to listen to you. They're ready for it. It can't come from me, though.
Yeah.
They need it from you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
Go
ahead, Aaron.
No.
Go ahead.
No. Your show. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting how, everything that Marcos and I have gone through over the last 18 months is, communication, empathy, learning how to have the coaching hat, not the prescriptive hat. You're just asking better questions, and it's people tell a lot about themselves, and like you said, more than a health intake form, more than labs would ever say. But it's funny because some people will tell you one thing and you're just like, I've seen this story a million times. Okay. I know you're telling me this, but I need you to just roll with this sometimes. And it's weird because it's that's where the coach has to come out. And I'll use examples. Like Marco said, I get someone that needs rigidity, right? And they need rigidity. And it's I know your personality. I just know if I give you this rigidity, you're gonna be so angry because you're gonna be like, I can't do it. And it's you think that this is the plan. Like today I saw a little intake, and it was someone was I just need the best diet locked in. I need the carnivore diet or the keto diet. I just need that. I think that's what's gonna give me everything I need. And then at the bottom of the intake, it says oh, I'm drinking 14 plus drinks per week. And I'm like, you don't need a diet.
Yeah.
You don't need the rigidity. You need to look at other sides. You need to look at the inverse of your life and see what's going on. And I think understanding that when we look at patients and clients, we look at the whole picture and go and you have to find a way to call it out without being I don't know the word, confrontational. Just be what have you thought about this concept before? And it's oh, and they realize oh, I'm not saying I'm right, but it's okay, I see where my blind spots may be, and I might have to consider this thing that this coach is saying, because it's what PN said the best. Coach Dom said it best, Marcus. I always love this analogy. It's a dark night. You're trying to cross a stream. as the coach, you're the guide with the flashlight showing the rocks to be like, hey, you've got these steps in front of you. It's up to you to take which route you want to cross this stream. And you don't want to lead them. You want to lead them the right way, but at the same time, they got to be the ones to trust the process too.
Yeah, that's really poignant, especially about I've crossed many a river in my day, and rocks are slippery, and they hurt when you fall on them. And so you have to make sure that whoever's guiding you across will also let you know, like, hey, watch your step. Like I'm telling you where to go, but please, please, please take your time, and we'll get here whenever we get here.
Yeah.
Man, so what was the last thing you were going to try to bring up, Aaron, before you let Seamus go?
I was just going to ask, like, do you guys ever like listen or read like coaches' speeches, whether they're like real coaches or fake coaches or just like inspirational people, to sort of get like inspiration on how you talk to patients? Like, do you guys ever just sit there and like listen to people talk and be like, okay, this is how I would want to present myself to a patient that I'm meeting for the very first time in order to get them motivated or inspired to do the program? Like, is that something that you guys are?
Man, that's a great question. Personally, the stuff that I listen to is almost the opposite of what would be maybe the right way to start somebody off with. As weird as that sounds, like, I'll just be honest, like most of the things I'm listening to are Joe Rogan and his opinions, quote unquote. You know what I mean? I'm listening to like Andy Frisella. I'm listening to other people that are like kind of big in the podcast space because I want to learn how they're doing it and how they're speaking, and interviewing people that ask like better questions. But I think like, again, like, but also doing it in my own unique way. Right. So it's not like I'm drawing inspiration from like a monologue or a speech or a TED talk. You know what I mean? I'm listening to like, how are they analyzing people? Do they need an agenda? Did they really prep in that way, or is it more free flowing? Can you get there some other way? So to me, like, that's where I draw inspiration personally. So I try to emulate it off of people that I feel like, man, I would really like to have that people on the show one day, and or be on their show one day. And how do we get there? In addition to that, like, book wise, you know what I mean? Like I also prefer to try to find if there's books that people are the author and also the narrator as well, like the one that actually does the audiobook. I think that like that's super cool because they will generally have to abridge it a little bit and put some like I should have said it this way, and then they go do that, and I like really appreciate that. So you get like the real like full thought there. And then I think at the end of the day too, like, how to speak to those people. I mean, again, maybe I should post that I did. I'll let Seamus watch the video that I did with the people yesterday and the seminar I did. Like, I feel like that's why we've been doing this, really, is like having each other as a sounding board and other people to talk to, so that when we get in front of that audience of people, like, again, I try to get everybody involved. And Aaron, you weren't here when we actually had Brett Bartholomew do like this little coaching class with everybody during like the COVID times. And it was like the most engaging digital like person I've ever been around. He was so good at getting everybody involved. Like, you couldn't hide behind your avatar on your screen in the Zoom meeting. He would call you out. And like, I've always really enjoyed that. And I try to like bring that into it. So I think we learned that maybe a little bit more through actually getting coached. Like, literally, that was his thing. I was like, I'm a coaching coach's coach. All right, cool. It's like, boom. And like the energy, even on a 1 hour Zoom, it was crazy. So
insane.
Yeah. Like, I try to pull from those things in those moments.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Aaron. Like, I pull from like books. Like, I was listening to books like speaking on like leadership, how to be elevated language, kind of like what Rudy talks about, speak like a CEO, emotional empathy, like audiobooks on that, certain podcasts. But I don't try to emulate certain things. I just try to be me more. But kind of like what Marcos was saying earlier, because now I'm like the brand flagship in Beverly Hills, like being a little bit more of that elevated professional version of Seamus and speaking more like that to basically increase my status a little bit, so that there is a little bit of a, not authority, but like there is that level of, okay, cool, Seamus is here, he's giving me the lowdown, we'll make it happen. But I'll tell you this, I've been watching one show and one show only, because I'm trying to actually relate with the high level, high performing like executive people that we're dealing with. There's a show called Billions, and obviously it's an over dramatized like thing about like people in the markets and like very wealthy people, but it's like this is the people I deal with. It's actually pretty cool to see like a very dramatic version of how they do their day to day. And now you kind of go, okay, these are some of the energies I'm playing with. And what's hilarious though is like obviously that shows fiction. Those characters are real people, and I see like I deal with those personalities. I'm like, oh, so this is how you have to like. My best analogy for that is jujitsu. Like submit like a willow tree in a storm of like, okay, cool, like just you're kind of just adapting to these personalities because like I always tell it, you're a personal trainer. You were a personal trainer before I was, personal trainer for a long time. I felt like every hour of the training day, like you were almost like I would also say like you're like personality disorder or bipolar because like 5 a.m. you were a different person, 6 a.m. you're a different person, 7 a.m. you're a different person because it's different people at different times of those classes. And I would teach classes until like 9 p.m. at night, and it's like you just had to match and reflect what was going on the other end or give exactly what they were missing and complement. That is not a skill for the faint of heart. That's a really hard skill.
Dude, and I'm telling you though, like learning that skill and then learning just like you said, like how to ask the right questions of people. And I learned this a lot in the service industry. I feel like everybody should work in the service industry, just like off the cuff, because not only will you learn how to talk to people, you will learn how to recognize how people talk to you, and like the sort of the way that you handle that, is like paramount a skill, because not everybody is going to talk to you like they like you, and not everybody's going to talk to you like they respect you. So it's kind of on you to command that respect, and sort of build that respect, even if you're already put in a position where you should be respected. So talking to people and then figuring out how to match somebody's energy is like, those are skills that you're not born with those skills, and you're not going to teach them in school, and they're not going to teach them in college, and you can go to any school around the world and nobody's going to teach you how to do it. Like you just have to get life. Like you guys just get beat up by life in like some of the weirdest, most absurd situations. And then sometime in the future, if you're lucky, you'll be able to apply those skills to something that's very fruitful and helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true. Like soft skills, right? Like no better teacher than the real world and probably service and how people talk to you. And, like I'm sure we see all the posts and the memes of like people like asking about like tipping, like the tip, everything you do. It's like, here you go. It's like they don't even talk to you anymore. They just put it in front of you like, all right, you're 10, 20, 30%. And then like the smallest little
question, completely optional. Real quick.
Yeah. What do you? Yeah. So typically for me, if we're both standing, you ain't getting tipped.
I have to do it. Like I don't even care, and it's so stupid because sometimes you'll see the screen and it'll be like 20%, $1.53, and you're just like, whatever, man, it's 20%. Like I can't change math. But like, I guess just because like I was on the other side of that screen for so long, and like, yeah, some days that $1.53, like that's gonna make a big deal in your life, and it's not even about the money. It's just about the like the
principle of it.
Yeah, the principle or like the meaning behind it, or it's like at least you feel seen. You know what I mean? Like at least you feel like somebody is noticing you for your work. So I get it, but I also understand like. Like it's so commonplace nowadays, like tipping, that it's just like, bro, like I only have so many dollars in my bank account. Like, I'm sorry, but like I need this. So yeah, I understand, but I hate to be a fence sitter on this subject because it sounds like so milquetoast, but I get it. I get both sides.
Oh no. Hey, like you can't change me. I tip service. So if you're the one that like, again, your personality type makes me laugh, little comical, you know what I mean? Boom, easy. But like, that's not what the reality of most situations are. No one maybe has as good of soft skills as you do, Aaron, which is again, like what I look for, like, is this exceptional?
Yeah.
Did this actually like mean something to me today? Because it is 6:30 a.m. I'm getting this coffee for my wife, and you just have this stoic face of like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
like that's not even like, I try to even like make light, like it's like it's kind of early, like what do you recommend? And they're just like, this one's kind of, it's like, like as if they like have never like been like, yeah, like you should really get this one. No, I genuinely would like to know like what you think, because you might sway my decision today. I'm feeling a little frisky. I might want the butterscotch coffee today. You know what I mean? Like that, like that. I mean, again, like go back to the whole thing we talked about today, like being the way that you get engaged, the way you get approached, the way that like the conversations flow mean a hell of a lot to me, an individual, means a hell of a lot to the people that we get around all the time. And like the tip culture thing, like I see these posts, I never comment on anything because I feel like that's a recipe for disaster. That's when I'll go viral. I'll say something wrong.
Yeah.
Except I did post one. I did post one the other day because they did a riff and reduce force for our school district, and it was like not the school my son goes to, and they're all like mad about like, oh, we all lost a teacher, blah 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 blah. I was like, yeah, meanwhile over at my son's school he gets one day where he gets to go on the playground in the morning, you know what I mean? And people were like, what, that's like ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, I know, I've already been understaffed, so welcome to the club is kind of what I was saying. And I was like, by the way, I'm not hating on our education system, but I really view socialization for kids as one of the most important things that they need in the day. Just being on the playground, that's when you learn those life skills, man, right? Like when you get toughened up a little bit. So I want my son to get roughed up a little bit. Last year he had to push some kid over because he stole his ball, and he's like, no, I'm playing with this, and the kid took it from him. He's like, no, and then we had a reprimand. It was like, hey, you can't just push somebody because you like, like low key giving them knucks, but also like, hey, you can't be doing that.
It's there, but you can't use that all the time. Margaret, I love that. I wanted to just say about the whole like culture around like Cenegenics, like we're like white glove service. I think like in the personal training industry, like I started out as a front desk, like when I was like 18, like in a gym, like when I was like 19, 18 in a gym. And I test this stuff. I test when I walk into an institution, like a business, like I want to see how that service starts from me entering it. And I will literally just like, my rule of thumb when I was managing gyms and managing things is like our team, when that door's open, we're first, we smile, we make introduction, we make that person feel like A through Z, they had a hand on them, servicing them the whole time, and we make that experience. And that's what Cenegenics does, and that's what I do my best at, like high level white glove service. When I go into businesses, like I will literally wait there at the desk and I'll just like not do anything. I won't say like, yo, someone's here. I'm just like waiting and seeing what happens, and I'm like, yo, it's been 3 minutes or it's been this, and it's like there's not a level of urgency to give someone that experience. And it's like you're starting to see that now where it's like, dang, like some people are just here to just like, I don't know, they're not really here to like, make it a great day for somebody. Like, and it's just like, dude, you got to make it a great experience. That's what business is, just relationships on steroids. That's it.
That's all it is. And I'm glad you guys mentioned that, because I just wanted real quick, I also want to give some flowers to like our service coordinator in Houston, Kara, because like she was out of town for like a week, and I had to sit at the front desk and like greet patients as they came in, and like I was so nervous doing this because I was like, what am I supposed to say? Like usually she's the one that's like, here's Aaron, he's your performance health coach. So like I don't know like what her like rapport is or her banter. So I'm just like people will walk in and I'm like, oh hey, how you doing? Did you find the place okay? Like I just feel like such a dope. Like like when she was gone, I appreciated her so much. Like, Kara, I love you. You're never allowed to leave again. But like being a front desk, being the first person somebody sees when they walk into a business is like nerve-wracking, because you never know who's coming in with like what kind of energy. And like talking about having to match somebody's energy, it's like, well, how do you match like somebody sitting in 45 minutes of traffic and not being able to find a parking space, and they just got off the phone and had an argument, and like how do you match that energy? You know what I mean? Like how do you, and you don't even know it's coming. It's like a somebody's launching a nuke right for your head. What are you supposed to do? So like having that skill to just being able to diffuse anybody that comes in with like too hot, like they're on 11 and you need to bring them down to 3. Like that's another skill that you just aren't able to do or learn without years of experience and practice at. So
Yeah.
shout out to all our service coordinators because they are
Yeah.
They're the front and they're the end too. They're the front and the end too. That's the thing about the service coordinators, because they take that thread and then they finish it through and they wrap it all up for that close. And it's they do a great job. True. Shout out to my True Willow. She's the best in Beverly Hills. She does an amazing job. Not only does she do an amazing job, she has to deal with my personality and keep me and keep the personalities that are strong in Beverly Hills like on the straight and narrow. Like, hey, here's our time frames. What's going on? Like, everything. And I've really appreciate the fact that like there's someone out there just like keeping me like a dog on a leash, like focus, because it's hard without her.
Yeah. Hey, big props to Kara, True, Tiffany, all the ones that I've worked with over the years. Obviously, Tiffany being the one here in my Vegas center, but also getting to work with both of yours, obviously in my travels. And again, like I've seen practically every center's people, you know what I mean? And it's, obviously I know which ones that I was like, I don't know if this person's going to be here much longer because they don't match the energy, like you said, because that is a unique thing. And then also too, like, yeah, like you just said, it's like being the first one, there is a level of like almost awkwardness to it, right? Like again, how do you get that immediate read and how like I'm just like, at least now it's like I don't have to wear like anything different. We have our scrubs, right? So it's like, all right, I think I look okay. Like I'm wearing uniform, so it should be all right. And then just put a smile on. But again, like that's that first moment, that first greeting. Again, judging a book by its cover. I mean, it's almost the reason why my mom quit her job last Friday. She's like, someone made a comment about her saying like, I knew I didn't like you from that first day that I met you. And I was like, well, that's a little harsh for her to say that to you, huh, Mom? And she's like, F that bitch. F her. Like, like she's like, this parent coming at me. She's like, I'm just trying to help her son out. And I was like, and then I'm like getting reprimanded by her. And I was like, hey, Mom, this is why I quit education after 2 years. I got reprimanded by my parent in my first year because I made a joke about, I was trying to build rapport with the student and it came to bite me in the behind. And it sounds like you're kind of dealing with a similar situation. And I told her, I was like, it's because you care too much. Care less. Going back to our PN coaching stuff, I was like, care less.
Always care less. Yeah.
You just literally like these moments, and again, like the greeting, the this, that, the other, all those things. Again, I mean, it's really what what I think we're on the cusp of like getting back to is this like that 5-star kind of like executive health, the Ritz of healthcare kind of thing. And I would tell people again too, like, coming in, asking for a tour, just kind of seeing the different places. If they, are listening to this and they're friends of us and you don't know what we do, come in. We're happy to give you a tour, kind of see the legs of the land. You guys have amazing offices. Our new updated one in Vegas is going to be awesome too, and just kind of be like, hey, like this is the
When's
starting
the moving
point.
Date for that? When's the moving date for that?
We'll be moving the last weeks of November. So last 2 weeks of November. Perfect. So we're kind of closing down during that holiday
I'll have
season.
To check it out in February. I'll have to check it out in February when I'm in Vegas.
Oh yeah, when everybody's here for that, I should go see the the thing and be like, hey, like, I mean, I'll probably take a video like this is what we used to deal with, and like again, like flow matters so much. Just like Aaron was saying, first thing you see, like we're trying to make it more intimate in a sense. Like it's too big right now. They're like, you have a lot of like empty space here. It's like, does anybody work here? It's like, yeah, like enough people to service you like as a one person like as one person in a day. Like this day is about you. And people like feel very weird about that, especially with healthcare. They're like, it's almost too big and overwhelming, and it's like, yeah, it's crazy. So like having a slightly smaller space and just enough space to do like the core things, and then like have those conversations is super impactful. So yeah, guys, like this was sick, Aaron. Man, we're gonna definitely come back and just like shoot the breeze with it not being like just related to this. Let's talk about, dude. I mean, let's just geek out about something that's like a completely bizarre topic, comic books or video games.
The fact that I know Aaron is like a DC person just like already warms my heart, So we'll talk
I don't know
about
if you saw. I got the Gundams back there. I got some Funkos. I got a Luke Cage Funko. I got a Sasha Banks. The
fact that you have 2 Halo book things already shows me everything I need to know about you.
Bro, I'm deep. I'm so deep in this. I am so like. You want to get deep? We can get deep, bro. we can get.
My next
We'll do
my
this.
next question is this though. Like, wait, so with the Halo books, there's a series on Prime for Halo, right? Have you watched that?
It was on Paramount
I'll
Plus.
tell you this right. I'll tell you this right now. Halo Season 1 should have just been the first 2 episodes, and then Halo Season 2 should have just been the last 8, and that would have been the first season, and then there would have been the real... But no one knows how to write good television anymore, Marcos.
Oh, God.
I'm at 1:30, guys. I'm at 1:30 just even thinking about it right now. Like,
Let's do this. Let's wrap up the show, and let's do this. Guys, thanks so much for listening. I think we're going to take it offline now, but another Cenegenics Guest Series. As you can tell, Aaron's a great personality. And I think the concept of Cenegenics, we talk about longevity, but you cannot have science without the human nature aspect, relationships, laughter, love, all the things we talked about. Comment below what you liked about the show. And Aaron, where can everyone find you to share that love with you?
Yeah, I guess you can find me on Instagram. I don't know how necessarily you would want to follow me because all I do is post memes and about just dorky stuff. But yeah, it's ARNMIKL. Like it's a really stupid
Perfect.
Instagram handle.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll end it here first. Yes. Bye.